From a distance, philosophy seems weird, irrelevant, boring, and yet also just a little intriguing. But what are philosophers really for? The answer is handily already contained in the word philosophy itself. In ancient Greek, philo means love and sophia means wisdom. Philosophers are people devoted to wisdom. Being wise means attempting to live and die well. In their pursuit of wisdom, philosophers have developed a very specific skill set. They have, over the centuries, become experts in many of the things that make people not very wise. 5 stand out. There are lots of big questions around. What's the meaning of life? What's a job for? How should society be arranged? Most of us entertain them every now and then, but we despair of trying to answer them. They have the status almost of jokes. We call them pretentious, but they matter deeply because only with sound answers to them can we direct our energies meaningfully. Philosophers are people unafraid of asking big questions. They have, over the centuries, asked the very largest. They realize that these questions can always be broken down into more manageable chunks, and that the only really pretentious thing is to think one's above raising big, naive-sounding inquiries. Public opinion, or what gets called common sense, is sensible and reasonable in countless areas. It's what you hear about from friends and neighbors, the stuff you take in without even thinking about it. But common sense is also often full of daftness and error. Philosophy gets us to submit all aspects of common sense to reason. It wants us to think for ourselves. Is it really true what people say about love, money, children, travel, work? Philosophers are interested in asking whether an idea is logical, rather than simply assuming it must be right because it's popular and long established. We're not very good at knowing what goes on in our own minds. Someone we meet is very annoying, but we can't pin down what the issue is. Or we lose our temper, but we can't readily tell what we're so cross about. We lack insights into our own satisfactions and dislikes. That's why we need to examine our own minds. Philosophy is committed to self-knowledge, and its central precept, articulated by the earliest, greatest philosopher, Socrates, is just 2 words long: know yourself. We're not very good at making ourselves happy. We overrate the power of some things to improve our lives and underrate others. We make the wrong choices because, guided by advertising and false glamour, we keep on imagining that a particular kind of holiday or car or computer will make a bigger difference than it can. At the same time, we underestimate the contribution of other things like going for a walk, which may have little prestige but can contribute deeply to the character of existence. Philosophers seek to be wise by getting more precise about the activities and attitudes that really can help our lives to go better. Philosophers are good at keeping a sense of what really matters and what doesn't. On hearing the news that he'd lost all his possessions in a shipwreck, the Stoic philosopher Zeno simply said, "Fortune commands me to be a less encumbered philosopher." It's responses like these that have made the very term philosophical a byword for calm, long-term thinking and strength of mind. In short, for perspective. The wisdom of philosophy is, in modern times, mostly delivered in the form of books. But in the past, philosophers sat in market squares and discussed their ideas with shopkeepers, or went into government offices and palaces to give advice. It wasn't abnormal to have a philosopher on your payroll. Philosophy was thought of as a normal, basic activity, rather than as an unusual, esoteric, optional extra. Nowadays, it's not so much that we overtly deny this thought, but we just don't have the right institutions set up to promulgate wisdom coherently in the world. In the future, though, when the value of philosophy is a little clearer, we can expect to meet more philosophers in daily life. They won't be locked up, living mainly in university departments, because the points at which our unwisdom bites and messes up our lives are multiple and urgently need attention right now.
Welcome to another edition of Basaganang Trip. I'm Leloy Claudio. I teach history at De La Salle University. As always, kung meron kayong komento, gusto nyo akong kausapin, gusto nyo akong i-troll, please tweet me at Leloy Claudio. So for today, ang gusto kong gawin is to start a kind of series of conversations. Mga conversation about yung mga courses na ayaw kunin ng mga tao. Ito yung mga liberal arts courses or yung mga humanities courses. So I'm probably gonna run through the three ones na ayaw talagang kunin ng mga tao dahil impractical daw. Philosophy, literature, and history. These are so-called impractical courses na mahal ko. So what I'm going to do is, for today, I'm going to focus dun sa filosofiya. Diyan tayo magsisimula sa filosofiya. Kasi ito naman yung isa sa mga pinakaluma, if not ito yung pinakaluma sa mga disiplina na yon. At ang guest ko ngayon ay isang colleague sa De La Salle, isa siyang associate professor sa De La Salle University, Department of Philosophy, at siya rin ang presidente ng Philosophical Association of the Philippines, my good friend, JJ Joaquin. JJ, welcome to Basaganang Trip.
Salamat, Leloy. Salamat.
So, let's start. Very broad question. Ano ba ang filosofiya at bakit dapat nag-aaral ng filosofiya ang mga estudyante? More specifically, kung pumipili ka ng kurso, why should you think about taking a philosophy course?
No, I like the question. So, ano muna yung philosophy? So, philosophy is a really old discipline. Diba? Sabi mo nga, napakatanda na yan. 2,500 years old na siya. As in, dun sa Western philosophy. So, ano ba yung philosophy? Philosophy is really yung study of everything. Parang kahit ano yan. Pwede mong pag-usapan yung cloud sa labas, pwede mong pag-usapan yung ilaw na yan, or pwede natin pag-usapan yung meaning of life at ano yung value ng life. Kaya, bakit ba kailangan ng philosophy ng mga estudyante? Kasi may mga skills ka madidevelop sa philosophy. Like yung critical thinking skills. Kailangan natin yan pag nag-iisip tayo. May creative skills din na makukuha. Pag nag-iisip ka about yung solution sa mga problema ng filosofiya, nandun din siya. Ngayon, sa history ng philosophy sa buong mundo, ang basic question lang naman tatlo kung iisipin mo. Anong nandyan, paano mo nalaman, at anong kahalagahan niya mga yan. So yun yung tinatawag na branches of philosophy na metaphysics, epistemology, tsaka yung axiology na tinatawag. Ngayon, ikaw, Atenista ka, syempre, alam mo itong mga basic areas ng philosophy na to, di ba?
Theoretically.
Theoretically. So, yung metaphysics, pag pinag-isipan mo yan, so ano yung nandyan? Di ba? Ano yung pag sinabi mong, ito yung justice. Ano yun? Ano yung justice? Or ano yung Diyos? Ano yung Diyos? Diba? So yun yung mga metaphysical questions. At yung isa pang question doon, meron ba talaga? Meron bang sense ng justice? Meron ba talagang Diyos? Or meron bang ganyan? Tapos, ang sunod na question mo, kung meron, paano mo nalaman na meron? So yun yung mga tinatawag na epistemological question or epistemic questions. So dyan pumapasok yung, ano ba yung rason natin para maniwalang may justice sa mundo or may just tayo sa mundo or whatever. Tapos finally, meron kang tinatawag na value question or axiology. Anong kahalagahan ng mga bagay na yun? Ngayon, alam mo na may Diyos or alam mo na may justice. Ngayon, bakit siya meaningful pag-usapan?
Gaganda na mga tanong, pero may trabaho ba dyan?
Yan ang medyo nating pag-iisipan.
Or kailangan mo mag-law school?
Ang minsan pinag-iisipan kasi, ang philosophy good for law school. Good training. Kasi why? You get yung chance of reading stuff. Marami kang babasahin sa philo Second, yung critical thinking, logic, yung reasoning, dun mo rin makukuha. So yeah, good preparation for law school. Karamihan nga yata ng lawyers natin, siya kongresista, galing sa philo
Pero still one of the best and most popular pre-law courses.
Yes, I think so. Pero isa pang, yung na-associate sa philosophy, yung mga pare Di ba? Yung mga pari natin. Mga philo graduates din yung mga yan. Ibig sabihin, dumaan sila dun sa training ng philosophy. Sabi nga nung sinaunang panahon, yung philosophy is the handmaid of theology. Para maintindihan mo raw yung articulation ng Trinity or ng God, kailangan mo ng philosophy para doon. Pero actually, pwede mong isipin na hindi lang naman yun yung trabaho ng philosopher Bukod sa academic yung philosopher, pwede rin siyang nasa think tank. Pwede mo siyang gamitin sa advertising. Pwede mo siyang gamitin sa mga nag-iisip about morality. So, maraming trabahong posible sa isang
Because it gives you an insight as to the nature of human beings.
The nature of human beings, the nature of society, the nature of everything.
And it makes you ask the biggest, most fundamental questions. You don't get caught up in the weeds if you're a philosopher, or at least you try not to.
Actually, you're not just concerned about yung, sabi nga nila, the trees. but also yung pinaka-root ng trees. Foundational yung questions. In philosophy, we always ask the question, why? Bakit? Bakit nagkaganyan yung mga bagay-bagay?
Ikaw mismo, JJ, paano ka naging pilosopo?
Magandang katanungan yan. Kasi nung una pa lang, bata pa lang ako, mahilig na ako magbasa. So nagbabasa ako ng history, kagaya mo. Mahilig din ako sa mga kwentong bayan, kwento about religion, kwento about societies, cultures, and so on and so forth. Pero mahilig din ako sa math. So medyo ako sa algebra, trigonometry, calculus, yun yung mga trip ko logic, computer science, ganyan. So sabi ko, anong discipline kaya ang pwedeng may history component at mayroong math component? So sabi ko, teka lang, philo.
Right?
Kasi yung philosophy, pwede kahit saan At ang masaya din sa philo, hindi ka lang concerned about yung logic part, hindi ka rin concerned about content part, pero how things hang together in a big picture.
So, ano naging track mo? Nag-undergraduate ka sa philosophy, tapos nag-PhD ka. Paano ka naging isang pilosopo?
So, nagsimula ako as an undergraduate sa seminaryo. I was training to be a priest. Unfortunately, I was called, but busy
Busy.
So, anong nangyari?
Pamilyado na ang ating kaibigan ngayon.
Hello po. So, lumabas ako sa seminaryo, tapos napunta ako sa isang magandang kolehiyo, at nag-aaral ako ng philosophy. Kasi yun naman yung naging course ko na. Tapos nag-MA din ako ng philo. Eventually, nagkaroon ako ng PhD. At nagkaroon ako ng exposure sa labas.
Kung wala tayong mga pilosopo, wala tayong mga gabay. Isipin natin yung character na si Pilosopo Tasio, for example.
Right.
I think naging gabay siya ni Crisostomo Ibarra, pero naging gabay din siya nung lipunan. Ano pwedeng gawin ng mga pilosopo para maging gabay ng mga Pilipino?
Actually, yung mga pilosopo natin, maraming pilosopo kahit sa Barberia may pilosopo, kahit sa sa jeep Kanina, di ba yung ating kasama doon sa yung nag-grab tayo, namimilosopo rin siya in a way. So ano ibig sabihin ng namimilosopo? Nag-iisip ka about things Kunyari, yung discussion about, meron bang Diyos? Di ba? So ano ang ibig sabihin ng pamimilosopiya about sa Diyos? Ngayon, isipin mo, may Diyos, tapos merong suffering sa mundo may evil So, paano mo i-reconcile yun? Yun yung isang trabaho ng pilosopo. Ngayon, sa nation building naman, so you have a notion of justice. Ano yung tama? Tapos meron kang notion na, teka lang, ano ba yung government? So, ano yung right government as opposed dun sa ano ba talaga yung tama? So, you have yung, let's call it legal goodness, tapos may moral goodness kung pwedeng paglaruan. So, yung pilosopo, ang ginagawa, tinatry i-articulate yung mga positions na yun. Iniisip niya, ano nga ba ibig sabihin talaga pag sinabi mong tama yung isang bagay or just yung isang bagay?
So, sinasabi mo, lahat ng tao nagtatanong nito mga tanong na to. Pilosopo na sila. Kahit wala silang AB philosophy, PhD philosophy, basta tinanong mo itong mga tanong na to, in a way, you're already a philosopher.
Pag nagre-reflect ka about your life, about your standing sa mundong ito, ano yung meaning ng buhay mo, pilosopo ka Pero syempre ngayon, mga panahon na ito, nagiging professional na rin yung philosophy. So kailangan mo rin, hindi lang nag-iisip ka, kundi syempre dapat ilabas mo yan sa ibang tao. Kagaya nito.
So kunwari ikaw, ayaw mo naman mag-AB in philosophy, ayaw mo kumuha ng kurso sa philosophy, let's say gusto mo lang kumuha ng couple of courses. Anong payo mo sa mga tao may passing interest in philosophy pero ayaw nilang gawing career? How can they get into it?
Maganda sa philo kasi pwede ka lang magbasa So kahit di ka nga mag-coursework Ngayon, pwede ka basahin yung trabaho nila Aristotle, yung mga magagaling na pilosopo natin, sila Plato. Basahin mo lang. Kasi yung mga gawa nila, fundamental questions about the meaning of life. Ano bang saysay ng buhay natin? Bakit ba tayo dapat maging ganito? Or ano ba yung tayo?
Hindi pa mahirap maintindihan yung mga yan? Di ba sasakit yung ulo niya? Di ba nosebleed sa text na yan?
Hindi naman. Kasi, kunyari, kung magbabasa ka ng Plato, ano siya kwentuhan Parang nagiinuman lang sila Na parang sinasabi ko, ano ba yung love? Yung isang dialogue ni Plato, yung symposium. Ang pinag-usapan nila, ano yung love So sabi ng isa, love, ano yan parang romantic yan Kailangan may sexual, kailangan erotic Sabi ng isa, hindi naman lahat ng love ganyan So yun na, nagsisimula na yung pamimilosopiya So ang hinahanap natin, ano nga ba yung tunay na nature ng love?
Pero ba't ko pa kailangan basahin yung Griego na parang thousands of years ago na buhay? Pwede ko naman basahin yung yung love columnist, yung self-help writer, di ba? Kahit basa lang ako ng The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale or The Secret, whatever, why don't I just read these
Pwede
works?
mo naman basahin yun, pero kasi yung pag dinilay nila, ay may nauna na eh. Kailangan mong hanapin, saan ba nanggaling itong... So, minsan talaga, lahat naman ng ideas galing sa philosophy. Kung iisipin nga natin, lahat ng klaseng disiplina galing sa philosophy. Isipin mo, ano ba yung biology? Sino ba yung father of biology? Sino ba yung father ng chemistry? Sino ba yung father ng physics or whatever? Lahat yan, isang pilosopo ang nagsimula. Sorry ha, hindi lang father, pati mother po.
Mother.
Meron din.
Kasi
Gender
meron din
sensitive.
meron din tayong feminist philosophy. Mga nagninilay ukol sa diferensya ng mga lalaki at mga babae at saka yung power imbalances. These things are being done by feminist philosophers too.
Actually, ayun ang maganda sa Lasal eh. Kasi ngayon, pinag-uusapan, hindi lang yun.
Lasal University.
Okay, hindi lang yun. So, ang pinag-iisipan kasi ng mga feminist philosophers, hindi lang yung difference eh. Pero, ano ba yung nature ng pagiging babae? Ano ba yung nature kaya ng pagiging bakla? Pagiging tomboy? Hindi lang naman gender na male, female na eh. Kasi, ano nga ba tayo? LGBTQI? Di ba? May intersex na. Ano yun? Di ba? Yun yung mga questions na pwede nating pag-usapan sa feminist philosophy or gender's philosophy. So, by the way, magpa-plug lang ako. May conference po kasi kami sa feminist philosophy sa November 15 to 17 sa Holy Angel University sa Pampanga. So, kung gusto niyo sumama, sama kayo. Pag-uusapan namin yung mga issues na yan.
Ako mismo, ang paborito kong pilosopo si Aristotle. And si Aristotle, he was called a peripatetic philosopher. Peri dahil paa. So, naglalakad siya at yung filosofiya niya ay nanggagaling din sa kanyang experience ng paglalakad at pagtingin sa kung ano man nangyayari sa kapaligiran niya. So, is there any advice you can give for people para yung araw-araw nila na paglalakad, walking around the city, pag-drive, pag-commute, pagpunta sa school, mas maging philosophical yung experience na yun?
Actually, sabi nga ni Plato philosophy starts with wonder. Yung parang mamamangha ka ba't nagkaganito Pag nag-start ka na magtanong na bakit ganito yung arrangement ng mga bagay-bagay? Bakit na iba itong bagay na to kaysa dun sa bagay na yun? Nagsisimula ka na mamilosopiya dyan. Ngayon, syempre, mahaba na yung history ng philosophy. Ang next step mo, alamin, ano na yung sagot ng ibang pilosopo tungkol dito? At evaluate kung tama ba yung mga sinasabi nila. Yun yung start na maging philosopher ka.
So, but daily tips, JJ. Kunwari, lalakad ka papuntang school. Ano yung pwede mong gawin para mas maging philosophical yung experience na yun?
Ako sa amin, kasi may training kami, mag-isip ka ng isang interesting topic. Diba? Kaya yung butas sa shirt mo. Nakakita ka ng butas. Ano nga ba ibig sabihin ng butas? Diba? Ano ba yung pag sinabi mong hole? Diba? Yung hole ba ay nakatastas na whatever na nandyan? Ibig sabihin, ina-assume mo ba na nag-i-exist yung hole na yun? Kaya isipin mo, hindi lang pala holes yung ina-assume natin nag-i-exist Baka pati shadows, baka pati tikbalang or whatever. So doon ka na mag-iisip So, kailangan may sense of wonder ka sa lahat na makita mo, sa lahat ng mga bagay na na-experience mo. Doon nagsisimula yung philosophy. So, kunyari, maglalakad ka sa kanto, bibili ka ng kung anong candy, isipin mo, bakit ko bina-value itong mga bagay na ito?
Tapos manganganak na yun.
Manganganak na siya.
I'd like to end there, JJ, because yung nanganganak na tanong, sa akin yun yung pinaka-importante. Minsan kasi sa ating lipunan, pag nahanap na natin yung sagot, nagre-relax na tayo. At yun yung end ng critical thinking. I think what philosophy encourages us to do is to ask the next question and the next question and the next question. Kaya nga, yung image ng mga tao ng pilosopo is yung kind of godfly, yung makulit, yung namimilosopo ka. And to some people, that's a negative thing. Why? But actually, yun yung kailangan natin ngayon. Kasi the moment na certain na tayo about our beliefs, that is the moment when we cut off new knowledge. That's the moment when we cut off new people. And the great philosophers, my guest included, ang panawagan nila is, kahit ano pa yan, kahit butas pa nga sa shirt mo yan, magtanong ka. At pag nagtatanong ka, pag kinakausap mo yung sarili mo at kinakausap mo ibang tao, hindi ka lang tatalino, hindi lang gaganda yung kalidad ng buhay mo, kundi para sa akin, magiging mas mabuti ka rin tao, lalawak yung puso mo. At yun ang value ng filosofiya para sa akin. Thank you very much, JJ Joaquin, for guesting dito sa
Salamat din, Laloy.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We had some technical issues, no, in our or at our end, no. So Therese, are you okay there? How are you, Ashera?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'm very fine. And thank you, everyone, for patiently waiting and welcome back. So I hope everyone had a refreshing lunch break, no? And I hope that
Yes.
everyone is now ready and excited to learn something new for this afternoon session.
All right. Okay. So that's it, no. And to those who are watching here, we'd like to say hi to you. To those who just commented here, Wenrap, okay, hello, Julius. Please don't hesitate to give your comments and your questions ahead, no, and uh, you could engage with us later on. No? So, by the way, I also would like to recognize again to those who pre-registered ahead, no, the registrants, no, who pre-registered. Okay, schools such as Aklan State University, UST, DepEd Coronadal, La Consolacion, University Philippines, University of Lazaret, um, University of the Philippines Los Baños, University of the Immaculate Conception, University of Perpetual Health, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Bataan Peninsula State University, De La Salle University, School of Education Arts and Sciences NU, Bicol University, Manuel S. N. Berga University Foundation University, Ateneo de Manila University, Banga National High School, Bicol University, Davao Oriental State University, and Concepcion Holy Cross College, City College of Calapan, Cagayan State University, Assumption Iloilo, Ateneo de Naga, Mindanao State University, Jansan, Colegio de San Gabriel Arcangel, Maharishi University of Information Technology, UST Graduate School, Pampanga State University, um, University of Northern Philippines, La Salle Antipolo, University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines, University of Southern Mindanao, National University, Visayas State University, okay, um, of course, Bukidnon State University, Malawi Vocational Technical School, Isabela State, St. Paul University, Surigao, Colegio San Agustin Binyan, USTP Claveria, Immaculate Conception Academy. What else do we have, Therese? What other institutions? Mhm. And of course, we also have here University of Rizal System. Okay, so thank you very much. Mhm. Okay.
All right, so without further ado, to begin our afternoon session, let us hear the introduction of our next speaker for today to be delivered by no other than Mr. Antonio Plete. Okay, so let's just wait for Mr. Antonio Plata. But while waiting, may I ask how's our viewers for this afternoon? Can you drop your answers in the comment box, guys? How are you? How are you, everyone? But you gotta answer it in a philosophical way. Okay, so again, let us all welcome Mr. Antonio Plate.
Okay, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. So, to introduce our speaker is a research fellow at the Deutsches Zentrum Fur Integration and Migrationsforschung in Berlin, Germany, under the Alexander von Humboldt Philipp Schwarz Initiative for Scholars at Risk. She is a retired associate professor of history and sociology at the University of the Philippines, Cebu, and a specialist in public sociology and decolonial studies. She earned her PhD in sociology from the University of the Philippines Diliman with her dissertation titled Playing the Game: Reform Politics in the Cebuano Traditional Political Field. She also holds an MA and BSE in history from the University of San Carlos, Cebu City. She previously served as a research fellow at the Université Catholique de Louvain in Belgium and was a board member of the Philippine Sociological Society for 2 consecutive terms. She currently serves as Policy and Mobilizations Officer for the Africa Europe Faith and Justice Network. Her research interests include public sociology, sociology of work and labor, governance, community organizing, participatory and oral history research, and instructional capacity building. Among her notable works are Engaging in Public Sociology, the Philippines Case in the International Handbook on Public Sociology, Cebu's Subnational Politics, a survey of Philippine political structure and culture in the Journal of Law and Social Sciences, and her editorial work on the Palgrave Handbook of Decoloniality in Asia, Springer 2025. So it is our honor to have as our guest speaker this afternoon, Dr. Phoebe Zoe Maria U. Sanchez. Let's have a virtual round of applause.
Thank you very much, Professor Plitte. Okay, I will start my discussion immediately. And thank you also to Professor Jofer Maninang and the rest of the BukSU Philosophy Department. Our topic is decoloniality and the Filipina in the global care chain industry. So, firstly, we are discussing the topic on the women, particularly the Filipina, and what the Filipino women are doing now in the global care chain industry, particularly in the standpoint of decoloniality. So we speak of a decolonial perspective, okay? And then we ask the basic question, why should we decolonize? Some people would say, what's the relevance of decoloniality when there is no more foreigner or there's no more foreign occupation? The colonial administration of the past were already gone. Are we sure? So that's the basic question we always ask. Then we proceed with understanding our norms, our social norms. There sustains the ubiquitous colonial influence amidst our institutional order. We cannot say that coloniality of power is gone. in the manner we conduct our affairs, our social norms, our ideological values, our property rights, our transaction costs, the modes of governance, the enforcement mechanisms that we are using. All these pave the way to current Philippine socio-political and economic affairs, historically traced to the coloniality of power. What have we been in the past, and what will we be in the years to come, given the path that we have tread from colonial times to the neo-colonial present? If you still remember, what did President Manuel L. Quezon say during the inauguration of the Philippine Commonwealth government? What did he say? He said, "I would rather see a government run like hell by Filipinos than a government run like heaven by Americans." That was actually a response, a belated response to President McKinley's white man's burden. It is the white man's burden to educate his little brown brothers. So that was what McKinley said in 1898. And then later on in 1902, General Elwell Otis entered the Philippines. But in 1935, we had a Commonwealth government. And then Manuel L. Quezon said, "I would rather see a government run like hell by Filipinos than a government run like heaven by Americans." Today, 9 decades after Quezon's inauguration of the Commonwealth government, what do we have? We have 12 line agencies still under the auspices of the U.S. State Department. And we have a series of puppet regimes under the dictates of the U.S. State Department. So precisely why we have to assess. We have a series of regimes who serve as agents of the corporation. What are these corporations? The big oil, the big pharmaceuticals, the world military industrial complex, the big banks, and the big biotech. Coloniality is not over, therefore. And when we speak of decoloniality, it comes as a clumsy concept. Why is decoloniality a clumsy concept? Because the word decoloniality has, on the other end, it depends on the colonial power to grant the colonized their independence. It awaits for the colonial power to give the liberation to the colonized. That is not a good kind of, way to become independent. Now, when we speak of decoloniality should be something that speaks of a resistance against coloniality of power. That is not, decoloniality itself is like a dangling term. The better word is always decolonize. But when you say decoloniality, there is something that, the scholars who don't really go out and fight for it, the scholars who just simply invoke theory, would like to write about in the table. But decoloniality is not something just to be written. It is not just about, talking and just intellectualizing. We're not talking about individual freedoms. We're talking about something collective that we have to be serious about. Okay, and what is wrong with decoloniality? So maybe you have to ask that question. So next to that point is the term Westernization, because sometimes coloniality of power is associated to the West. We are from the East, and the sun shines from the East, but we always look up to the West. So we always ask the question, why is it that science flourished from the West and not from the East? Okay, does Westernization necessarily imply modernization? Or it means slavery? When did the West begin its Westernization? How did European colonialism operate in Asia? Maybe these are questions that will need, time for us to dig deep, and it's not necessarily the entire topic we have to discuss, but I just give you something to whet your appetite about decoloniality here. Speaking about when Europe came, it started way back 590 BC when Europe took hold of Africa. And then in 1493, they took hold of Latin America. And then 1511, they commenced occupying India, Indonesia. And then you have 1521 when Magellan came into Cebu, the island of Cebu. Okay? So that's how we just introduced that one. And then, of course, you know how the Philippines was. We are right smack at the middle between the crossroads of trade and commerce, the crossroads of trade and commerce between China and India. Precisely why we are called Southeast, or we are located in a place called Southeast Asia. We are at the crossroads between China and India. We are south of China, east of India. And then we are oriented with this map. If you look at this map, the world map, it comes as an optic illusion because it's not true. You have the US and you have the whole of the Americas too large when it is just about 9 million square miles. And Asia, our Asia, the largest continent, which is 17 million miles, is too small. And then you have Africa, which is 11 million miles, even bigger than America, is flunk below in the global south. So we have to consider the global east. That's why we made a book, the Palgrave Handbook on Decoloniality in Asia, which talks about the global east, because we cannot just talk about global north and global west and global south without indicating the global east. So comes now the book, the Palgrave Handbook on Decoloniality in Asia. When you read the Palgrave Handbook on Decoloniality in Asia, you should put, first Asia, because the sun shines from the east. So we must have at the left, when you read, we start from the left, we should have Asia there on top, and then we move on to the west. From the east to the west. That should have been the proper orientation, rather than you put America at the left and then moving from America to Asia. Asia is placed there at the last part, but they should commence from Asia. So it should be global east to global west rather than global west to global east. That should be the proper orientation. That should be the correct thinking. And that's our intent, to correct the erroneous presentation of, or the erroneous orientation in our sciences. Okay? So decoloniality as anti-colonial resistance, that is what I emphasize, and I will always emphasize. And we have to discuss about what are the exemplars of anti-colonial resistance. So we have the nativist uprisings, we have cultural reforms, we have Marxists, and we have revolutionary nationalists. So when we speak of nativistic uprising, our classic example is Lapu-Lapu. Remember, or if you read Antonio Pigafetta's work, page 171 to 177, you will find the reason that Lapu-Lapu had to rise up, have to mass up the people of Mactan Island and fight against Magellan was because Magellan also organized the chieftains in the Visayas and then asked for tributes. The tributary system is extractionism. It's a manner of, organizing the whole island, the islands to be part of this criminal syndicate of Magellan to collect tributes, to collect taxes. That's the beginning of the erroneous practice of protectionism, extractivism, and state making, when the state is a criminal enterprise itself. So what happened? Magellan was attacked by the Oponganons, the people from Opon or Mactan Island. And so also came our cultural reformers, guys who were able to get education from the West. So you have people led by your popular Jose Rizal, Graciano Lopez Jaena, Marcelo H. del Pilar, the articulate, the bourgeois nationalists who championed the propaganda movement, so they followed. And then these cultural reformers were also common in other parts of Asia. You speak of Mahatma Gandhi, you speak of various scholars all over Asia. And then even in the Arab world, there are great names who stood as nationalists defending the nation state. And there were also Marxists. And those who followed Marx are exemplars like Mao Zedong, like Ho Chi Minh, Mao Zedong for China, Ho Chi Minh for Vietnam. So there were many cultural reformers and Marxist reformers and revolutionaries. And then the nationalist revolutionaries sustain. The problem with this revolutionary nationalism, fighting for anti-colonial or doing anti-colonial resistance, is that they are labeled as either terrorists or, those they say radicalized groups. And there are three decisive forces identified to be predecessors of anti-colonial social structural change that serve as bedrock of the structure of newfound nation states in Asia in the 20th century. The Asian decolonial perspective is viewed in a two-stage struggle. The first stage is the anti-foreign, which is led by the bourgeois, usually those who were educated from the West, or those who got their education from the West and seems to forget that there is also a way to advance the institutions of the East. But the problem with the bourgeois nationalists, they become chauvinists to the extent that they also are anti-violation of sovereign rights. But some of them who pose as nationalists, they are anti-violation of sovereign rights, but they are also agents. Ironically, they are also from their rank serve the agents of the corporation, the agents of the big banks, the agents of the big oil, the agents of the world's military-industrial complex, the agents of the big pharmaceuticals, or the agents of big biotech. The second stage of anti-colonial resistance is engaged via a triad of political forces, which Gramsci called the bloco historico: the peasantry, the working class, and the petty bourgeoisie. Okay, we have all these peasant movements. We already have workers' movements. And then we have also a combination of the educated class moving together in the way Cuba did, in the way certain parts of Asia have engaged. But again, the problem is that they are labeled as terrorists, if not radicalized groups. Okay? Now, we go to this topic. It's a women's world. The Filipina as transnational migrant laborers. Part and parcel of the labor force are women, because more than half of the sky is made up of the women's population. How do we treat the women before we speak of the particularity of the Filipina? As explicated in Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, women cannot simply be considered as sexed organisms. Their labors operate with their bodies as concrete parameters of consciousness, appropriating society's economic structure, indicating the degree of technical evolution that human society has attained. When you look at the women today, how do you assess the situation of the women? Are they better off than the women yesterday or in the past years? If you look at a society, they say the way to evaluate a developed society is to look at the life, to look at the situation of the women. We'll understand that further in this text. So the study looks into developmental institutionalism. We'll look into the colonial to post-colonial institutions that triggered waves of migration among Filipino women, the transformation of the political economy of gender relations, the challenges to the care chain industry in the 21st century, and lastly, the unanticipated consequences of a neoliberal world order and the internationalization of the division of labor. These are very important things that we have to look into. So, firstly, the nature of our villages. From ancient times, we can describe our village to be small in size, with about 30 to 50 families. We have a distinctive geographic locale. We live in riverine and coastal communities because we cannot survive without water. We are dependent on the monsoon weather. We say the southerlies and the northerlies, or the habagat and the amihan. Okay, we rely on our subsistence. We rely on subsistence economy, farming by day, fishing by night. If you can imagine what or how was life in this time, how was life for women in this time? And you can understand, because even in today's Filipino village, that situation still prevails. We are still stuck to the carabao and the plow. Okay? But basically, workplace and rest place is just one place. We are happy people as Filipinos because right beside our nipahat is a very small parcel of land, our vegetable garden. And we can thrive with that. We can survive with that. And that is actually all the things that we need. I can just remember how my grandparents and some of my clan members and relatives from the Umbay family thrive with this from ancient times. Anyway, so again, we go back to our condition. There was trade and commerce. We are right smack at the middle between China and India. But when colonial administration came, they introduced 4 economic institutions that paved the way to the impoverishment of the Filipino people. First, we speak of core V labor, polo y servicios. Second is the tributos reales, or the colonial taxation without representation. And then third, the imposition of the compras reales, or the mandala, which is basically a system of dividing harvest. Some amount should be given to the colonial administration, and so only a part of it will be sustained by the family. And then the fourth is the imposition of the reales, the money economy as a system or a means of exchange. With these 4 institutions, our labor has been used up to render service, our males from age 16 to 60 have to work for the colonial administration. So labor force was used up not for the intent of the family or for the Filipino community. The resources of the Filipino environment were also siphoned and taken away. The resources that are supposed to support the future generation were already used up from 4 or 5 centuries past. And there is not much that was left for us. Okay? And then you have the confiscation of goods, or the compras reales. So when money economy was introduced, a system of exchange was introduced, first the reales and then later on transformed into the peso. As the basis of exchange, people do not have control over this money or this system. So we keep on pursuing, we keep on catching up with money. Before we sleep, we think of money. And then when we wake up, we think of money. And then the whole day we are looking for money. That's how we became very poor. So as a result, there is the impact called social disequilibrium or social imbalance. The workplace is just one place, is no longer the same thing. You have to go out farther away from your household to look for money to be able to support your family. Okay, and there is also that culture of demoralization. People have this get rich quick mentality. People have to pursue money and have to find a way for hope to get a windfall. They gamble, they make use of decadent measures, and even stealing became a fad. Okay, so we have already our corrupt and people, even at that time as money was introduced. So a lot of people were in distress because there is that get rich quick mentality, the clamor to climb up to the ladder and how to be part of the twister, to get into the twister, how to be able to catch up with the colonial culture. So some would like to eat the way the colonizers eat, speak the way the colonizers speak. That's precisely why we don't speak our language or using another medium of communication rather than our own. And so segue to the issue of displacement. People travel out of their place to look for greener pastures. So logically, leaving home is the oldest response to oppressive and or challenging conditions. History teaches us that migration has been the oldest response to all forms of displacement and dispossession as a result of poverty and inequality. Okay, that was introduced to us by David Harvey, but this one also speaks of our situation as Filipinos. Migration is a developmental issue. So people leave their country of birth in search for greener pastures. Before we just leave our household, the small garden beside our nipa hut is not enough. So we have to go to the city and apply for a job. The mentality of the Filipino is you have to graduate from school to be able to find a job, okay? Rather than you go to school, study the sciences, and make better tools to advance the production of the land. And remember, there are only two forms of capital, land plus labor. But we don't look at that. We work for our colonial masters. We also work for big companies and make the company owner profit from us rather than we making our companies. So migration is one resort in order to have better means to advance home, to alleviate the situation of the family. Migration has never been seen as a symptom of a deeper crisis. It is a developmental issue, but our developmental policies fail to account on the conditions of displacement and dispossession as the root causes of the migration crisis. Worst, predominant developmental policy views migration more of a demographic opportunity to maximize rather than a problem of social cultural inequality. So, when did migration start? The first wave of migration was something before 14th century onwards. Filipinos traveled to as far as China, India, and much more during the British opium trade and the opium wars. The second wave was when the Manila Acapulco galleon trade was introduced by the Spaniards, and then the third, when large scale fields and plantations in the US took volumes of Filipino laborers to work in the fisheries and canneries and the sugar cane fields. And then the fourth wave was during the Second World War. The US recruited a lot of Filipinos to be sent to engage in warfare. In the 1950s, the war between North and South Korea have Filipinos fighting with the American forces. The same with the Vietnamese War, the American-Vietnamese War at the 17th parallel between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. A lot of Filipino men were recruited by American soldiers. And the last wave or the fifth wave was during the time of the former dictator Ferdinand Marcos, who introduced the labor export policy. This commenced the introduction of Filipino women to hospitals, the women, nurses, domestic helpers. That's the LEP of Ferdinand Marcos that introduced the first wave of Filipino women's migration. That's our topic. Okay, so we have the reasons behind the labor export policy. Overseas foreign remittances are important for the economy of third world states like the Philippines. Why? Because they fund spending on essentials, lower extreme poverty, and support healthcare and education. They are a large part of a country's GDP due to billions being sent back to home countries by migrant workers. For instance, the Philippines in the first quarter of 2025 had 38 billion pesos from OFW remittances. Policymakers always prioritize systems of cross-border migration, which will lift the economies of developing nations. Inflation causing a rise in goods and services can enforce amounts of remittances being sent home. So that's why they always hammer on migration. It's like trafficking labor outside. It's like pushing that labor flight outside, that capital flight outside. But why is the Filipina in the care chain industry? Why is the Filipina the favorite supply in the global care chain industry? So you have the Filipina docile, English-speaking, submissive labor force with mastery on personal care and the art of homemaking. Okay? What is the historical nature of the Filipina? I would sum up the Filipina into three important aspects. The Filipina has autonomy over her body. She has autonomy in terms of consciousness. She has autonomy in the material world. Let's go back to the Filipina prior to colonialism. There are three evidences for our women's sexual autonomy. I would consider these very important evidences: the use of the sipan brush, the tukbuk and the sakra, or the rosette wheel mounted on the penis of the men, and the betel nuts. The sipan brush, the brush, which is an edible brush, it's a kind of bush that is being used in the locals in the Visayan Islands to clean the mouth. It has some kind of mint. It is like your close-up. It has a mint taste, which cleans the orifices, the mouth, and even the lower parts of the body. Okay, and this is a way of socialization. Women prepare this one and offer this to the men to whom they would seek for sexual favor. The tukbuk and the sakra. Pigafetta, you will read in pages 66 to 69 in Antonio Pigafetta's Viaggio al Intorno del Magalhães, the voyage of Magellan around the world. When Pigafetta came to the Visayan Islands, he documented the use of the rosette wheel that dangles with the organs of the men when they were washing in the rivers. And Pigafetta asked them, "What are these for?" And the men said, "Oh, these are important because the women will not allow us to approach them without it. It proves that there is that sexual appetite among our women." And the betel nuts, the buyo, it's a kind of chewable that you take with the rice wine or the coconut wine. And it gives something of an ecstatic, feeling. Of course, it subsides after some time. Okay. These evidences can be found in the works of Antonio Pigafetta, Juan de la Isla, Pedro Chirino, Francisco Alsina. Alsina has some illustrations you can find in his book, Ignacio Alsina, Juan Delgado, Diego Duarte. Okay. And then the next about the Filipina is her autonomy over her consciousness. The evidences of tattoo all over the bodies of women, tattooed alibata, were basically letters. It shows that these symbolizes the magnitude and power of words and letters that our women carry on their arms, being ritual leaders who actually spit tales, lullabies, songs, prayers, myths, epic sacred hymns, and these are their means of molding young minds, nurturing the early community memories and value systems. Our Filipinas priestess poets, or women of great knowledge or great kinaadman. Women transmit learning integral to the natural environment, the community interactions, and they are known to be proficient in writing the alphabets and skillful in supplying the consonants. The third is the women's autonomy over the material world. Our women produce the textiles. The women also produce the pots. There are communities in the Visayan Islands which are still producing the hablon and the mamirikpik and the mamarakpaks, or the pottery makers. No? Pottery for food storage, for safekeeping of perishable goods, and of course for domestic trade. So the women's craftsmanship make our society and make our households operate the everyday life. They have this prominent role in farming, in food production, in homemaking, planting, harvesting. They have rituals for planting and they have rituals for harvest. Men are not allowed for the notion that food will actually dwindle if men are going to lead the harvest and the planting. So the life in our society is grounded on everyday experience and activities associated with the daily tasks relative to the indigenous resources and technologies in the community. Our women manage the home and community affairs. They perform rituals from planting to harvest seasons, from sending off slave raiders to their victories, from birth to marriage, and from sickness to healing or to death. In marriage, our women enjoy the freedom to control properties and engage in trade, and they were believed to be the first technologists of production. During this period, society was equipped with its own set of written characters, of alphabets, and women enjoyed autonomy over their body and occupied a decisive status in society. Okay, they have this active participation in all aspects of the political, the cultural, and the economic domains. So the Filipina woman is the powerful figure in Filipino society. Okay, Filipino women's power. From the Filipina is derived the bearing, the rearing, the caring, and the nurturing of community. But then came colonial education. What did the colonial institution introduce to us? The Spanish education replaced what was taught by the Babaylanes to our community, and it was replaced by the curriculum of the Doctrina Cristiana, the Urbana at Felisa. You know, while the boys or the men were studying the 3 R's, arithmetic, writing, reading, the Filipina is stuck to the arts and beautification or the domestic science. And there is the introduction of corporal punishment. And when the American political education or popular education was introduced, again, it reinforced the same system. Women cannot speak, only men are allowed to speak in the public sphere. It created a certain kind of repressive educational system and shaping submissive people who are English speaking and way. So the transformation of the political economy of gender relations became an impact after colonial education. Natives have to accept an orientation of hierarchy, as I have told you. What happened to the chieftains, Humabon, Raja Humabon of Cebu, and Sikatuna? They were used by Magellan to attack Opon or Lapu-Lapu, or to attack Mactan Island. And in response, Mactan Island have a chieftain named Lapu-Lapu, They dug holes at the beach so that when these Spaniards came with the other island chiefs to collect tributes, they will actually engage them in an ambuscade. So it was so easy to get Magellan killed. And of course, that was the story. But it's not just Lapu-Lapu. There were 90 other nativistic revolts. Tamblot, Tapar, Bangkao, Dagohoy, Papa Isyo. I want to focus on this one as anti-colonial resistance, but that is also another topic. So the new order triggered conflicts among the natives when colonialism came. There is already competition. One chieftain is pit against another chieftain. So we were in chaos. The Spanish parish school system molded a submissive populace via corporal punishment and rote memorization. The friars took over the place of the Babaylanes, and then later, Elwil Otis and the American soldiers became teachers. It was the time when the male ethos considered women as subordinate and weak. In times of burden, the woman is a slave to the man. She has no voice. She has no more opinion at home. She can be asked to do anything, and she can be taken anywhere and could even be sold if her husband wishes it. So that was the lowering. No, there was the lowering of the status of the women. We are stuck to the domestic sphere. We cannot get involved in the community or the public sphere. So now, segue to the current situation. We have a lot of OFWs. What are OFWs? Persons with Filipino citizenship, but is a migrant worker who resides in another country for a limited period of time. There was a labor secretary who said that almost all Filipino families have one member who has gone abroad or have experienced working abroad. And that remains to be a fixture in the Filipino household. Okay? So we have, in Europe alone, we have an estimated population of 1.77 million OFWs. That was 2020. But the current situation says all over the world, we have about 3 million Filipinos with already naturalized citizens. And then we also have some 3 million OFWs, and we have some 3 million who are illegitimate OFWs or not documented people. So we have about 10 million outside of the country circulating all over the world. 59.6% are women. And currently, the PSA, Philippine Statistics Authority, says that 2,700 Filipinos leave the country daily to work abroad. Migrante would say 6,000 daily. Well, the data is 2,700 when it comes to the estimates of government. The prominent Filipinas serve as global nurses, caregivers, and global cleaners. So in Germany, in this place where I am, there is an estimated population of 60,000 Filipinos who started coming in the beginning of the fifth wave during the first Marcos administration with his labor export policy. Of the 60,000, 30,000 are permanent residents. The rest are not yet permanent residents. During that time, 43% of them who came and entered the Deutsche Arbeitsmarkt is labor market, 43% were nurses. And they were hired annually for Krankenpflegen or care supply workers, okay? Why in the care chain industry? Why is it that Filipinos are involved in the care chain industry? Firstly, what is a care work? Care in the service of others, care for the children, the elderly, the sick, the animals, and the cleaning of things. Cleaning is fundamental in every society. It's essential for the operation of global cities. Often not seen as an economic act, therefore invisible in mainstream economics, leading to poor public policy and social systems. We have Convention 189 of the International Labor Organization, and which is a convention setting labor standards for domestic workers. But only 35 countries have ratified the convention. Okay, so in Germany we have the Bundes Filipino Triple Win program that supplies about 8,000 Filipino nurses annually. Okay, the problem with this system is that when our nurses enter the German labor market, our nurses are registered nurses. They graduated scientifically as nurses, as licensed nurses. But when they enter the labor market, they are considered as only helper, no, Krankenpflegenhelfer. So not necessarily a nurse. And they don't enter into step 5. Step 5 is 22 and 90 euros. They are just receiving 12 and 90 euros. So that's quite below what is step 5, lugi. That's unfair, okay? And then they are hired, but they pay like 70,000, 80,000, 90,000 for the recruiter, and payable for 2 months, that's about 1,100. That's 2 months. So some of our nurses start in poverty, so they're easily, taken into a poor situation. Okay. The next, we have the au pair system. A lot of women, very young women, are circulating in Europe, and I was able to interview some of them. They came as au pair. The au pair is a cultural exchange. There's that so-called cultural logic of things, but it's a way to actually, in an oblique manner, do recruitment or do trafficking. Women are engaged in cultural exchange, but they are particularly 18 to 25 years old. And these women are very young at this age. It is at their prime. And when they come, they serve in a household and they are given 280 euros allowance. And they stay at home in the guise of cultural exchange. But eventually, it is augmentation labor for the households of these locals, because they don't hire helpers, they don't hire domestic workers. What they do, they go to the embassies and then they ask for cultural exchange professionals. But some of these young women have not even finished college. I have interviewed some people who just came after 7 months. They could not find a placement. So where will they go? And they don't want to go home because, 200, 380 euros, you have free house, you have free board and lodging, and then you have an allowance of 280 euros. That's saving for you. If you come to the Philippines, you cannot have that much money. 280 euros. 1 euro is 62 pesos. That's quite big for them. But still, in the labor standards, that's very low. If you operate here with only 280 euros in your pocket, that's quite bad. Anyway. So formal legislation prevented official admission of domestic helpers. So they're using the au pair system to circumvent their own law. Okay. And the other is the marketization of mail order brides. So you have wives of locals, the Germans, the Filipino wives. It becomes opportunity cost for the German man to have a woman in his household to take care of his old parents, to clean the house, and for him to just go around whatever he wants to do. The woman is an opportunity cost. Somebody cooks for you, somebody washes your clothes, somebody cleans your home, somebody keeps for you. Okay. And then we have the global cleaners. Our global cleaners are Kurzarbeit. When you say Kurzarbeit or marketized cleaner, you are just working 4 hours because you cannot work the whole day. It's during wee hours, 4 in the morning to 8 in the morning. That's a short time, 4 hours, and that's only 13 euros per hour. In the afternoon, you start at 6 and then you go home at 10, because what you do is simply clean offices, clean the public toilets, clean the stairways of big buildings and Wohnung or apartments. So that's Kurzarbeit, short work. But of course, that's care work, the cleaning of things. Okay. So in my critical discourse analysis, I collect the statements of the respondents and then I organized the idea. So you'll find here the tabulation of um, tabulation of interview comments and feelings of people, and then it is being used to create themes for the analysis. Then I also looked into the statistics. The Kurzarbeit, or this short work, Kurz is short work, 4 hours work, because standard work is 6 hours with 30 minutes pause or 30 minutes break. But here you can get a job for 4 hours in the morning or 4 hours in the evening and still you can survive. Okay? 73% women are overrepresented among 73% of the world's population that has partial or no access to social protection, rendering them more vulnerable to poverty and other inequalities. So basically, if you work as Kurzarbeit, that's not full-time work. And it's difficult for you to get protection because that's not full-time work. So care work and migration, one of the most vulnerable migrant worker groups are domestic workers, who are overwhelmingly women. See, migrant workers, of the migrant workers, 44.3% are women. And of the domestic workers, 80.1% are women. Migrant domestic workers, 73.4% women. From the Filipino community, these are the points that I gathered. The migrant youth, so the second generation Filipinos, they can go to school, but they cannot proceed to higher education. Not all of them can really climb up the ladder because there's another language. The first thing that you have to hurdle is the language barrier. Okay, so our youths can go to school but cannot proceed to higher education. They also end up as cleaners and nannies or caregivers, just like their parents, so they cannot climb the higher notch of society. The migrant worker Filipino, some of them are undocumented, they have no contract recognition, they have no contract, and if they have no contract, there is no recognition of work as work. They're overly exploited in terms of pay. You have only 13 euros per hour. Like our nurses who end up as Krankenpflegenhelfer. They're overexploited in terms of hours of work. Our caregivers usually beholden to the mercy of employers. Our aging or elderly migrant seniors have no pension, no health care provision, no stipend, and when disabled, there's no stipend. They are dependent on private NGOs or doctors for their checkups, endorsements in hospitals. So this is a survey in terms of the income profile of Filipino migrants in Germany, the age profile, the industry profile, the educational levels, the residency status, okay, the length of residence, the civil status, and then I did a migrant satisfaction survey. Filipino migrant satisfaction in Germany. 76% say it is difficult to find a house to live. 30% say they find it difficult to land a job. 24% said it is difficult to find food to eat or they have experienced hunger while they are here. 37% said it is say people are unfriendly. 47% say it is difficult to reach out to an association. 16% find it extremely difficult to reach out to a German association. And then 40% said it is difficult to earn a German citizenship. Conclusion: the Filipino women lost their autonomy and was transformed into domestic augmentation labor after the colonial education. And then, in the current times, the Filipino women became marketized export labor via the state labor export policy and became integrated into the global care chain industry. Our women do the 4Ds: the dirty, the difficult, the dangerous, and the demeaning jobs. Okay. And then the coupling between the two households. There's a coupling between the two households. The marketization of care work actually allows us to connect two households: the household of the professional woman in the first world and our household in our global southern household in the Philippines. So our women are connected to the women of the global north, without which the two households will not have any connection and without which the transnationalization of labor will not take place. The global care chain industries have the 4Ds again, and then women from third world labor brokerage system figure out as a currency or foreign exchange standing on an export-oriented, import-dependent global economy. This is the unanticipated consequence from colonial times carried onwards to the present neoliberal order and the internationalization of the division of labor. So there's a tiered global division of labor: an upper circuit, a middle circuit, and a lower circuit. Let me explain to you. The upper circuit is made up of the high-tech type of jobs, those who are working in the industries: Siemens, BMW, Mercedes, okay, and the tech, tech part. They're paid about 70 to 100 euros per hour. The middle circuit is in the banking, finance, professional thing, 50 euros, okay, up 30, 50 to 70, 30, 50, 70. But there's a bloated lower circuit economy, and this is made up of a lot of the care workers. This lower circuit is just about 13 euros or $10, very cheap labor force. But still, if they send money to the Philippines, that's big when translated into pesos, but it's very small when it is compared to the other wages in the international labor market. So that's the lower circuit labor index. You have the upper circuit index of regular, formal, executive, and highly skilled labor. That's the yellow circle here. You have the orange circle for the middle circuit: transport, communication, professional service, IT, banking, and finance. So the bloated lower circuit economy puts into context the new home economics, which is what Simone de Beauvoir was aching about when she speaks of the women as not just sexed, but of course as productive forces, the women's labor supply correspond to market prices, to opportunity costs for the men. If men have wives, not just one, they are actually rich because the women work. It's the women who organizes things in the household. The women organizes society year in and year out, who takes the children to school, okay, who takes the children to church, who arranges the young so that they be groomed to become full citizens. It's a women's world. No flow of water is greater than its source. In the perspective of the German, keine Wasserstrom ist größer als seine Quelle. Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Wow, that's very pleasant, uh, knowledgeable, and very provocative. Am I correct with the words that I use here, Dr. Phoebe? Thank you very much for your talk about the topic that you shared to us. So, and at this point, um, Therese, would you like to help me engage with the audience together with Dr. Sanchez about her topic? There are actually many comments here before you came in, Dr. Sanchez, and some of them already commented their questions in our Facebook Live. No, perhaps we could uh, go with them one by one, no? Apart from
Yeah.
the comments of Wenrep and Julius. So we actually have, we would like to also recognize who commented here, Leo from Davao Oriental State University, no, other than the questions, and then Juan Luz Janus, it's not their complete names. And then we have Aaron from Visayas State University, Tolosa, who just experienced an earthquake there. Dr. Phoebe, we're actually experiencing earthquakes here. We had a huge one, and then we had aftershocks. Uh, so many. And then who else? We have John Prudes. Uh, okay, Rams, and then so maybe we could engage with you, Dr. Sanchez. We're going to share to you the questions. We're already in our open forum segment of our session this afternoon. So, Therese, could you please uh, give the comment of Leo here,
Thank
no,
you so much,
to
Sir
Phoebe?
Jofer. So before I'll read the questions, ma'am, or Dr. Sanchez, I would like to thank you once again for that very rich and powerful discussion. So indeed, it's a women's world because no society will
Yes.
ever be without it. So I will never forget that quote. Okay, so let's proceed with the comments and the questions that we already have here for this afternoon. So we have a comment from
Yes.
Mr. Paul Pano. Actually, he said, as long as we build connections to other cultures and nations, decolonization is an impossible dream. In fact, it is impossible in the first place. So that's the comment he made earlier, Dr. Sanchez. And then we also have our first question from Angel Grace Villafuerte. She asked, how do Filipino values such as kapwa and bayanihan offer a decolonial framework for understanding global care ethics?
Okay, first I would like to comment on the comment of Paul. Paul,
Yeah.
uh,
Comment, on the comment.
a comment
Yes, that's Paul.
comment is that all the more we can
Sounds
speak.
like a philosopher, Dr. Sanchez.
I'm not, because I'm a sociologist. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but you know
a
when you
theorist.
yeah, when you speak of decoloniality, we also need solidarity. In solidarity with other nations of the world, nobody can proceed independently. No man is an island. And it's very important that we have, or we converse, we bring into the conversation the experiences of other nations. The compendium, the Palgrave Handbook on Decoloniality in Asia, is actually a combination of negotiating science from the global south to the global north. So it's not purely a global southern perspective, it's not purely a global eastern perspective, but there is an exchange, there is negotiation, because who will recognize us if there is no other? So we must speak of the other, just like the woman is considered as the other man in Simone de Beauvoir's perspective. Uh, Woman is opaque. She cannot be a complete insider and a complete outsider. And then uh, after the colonial era, women were relegated to the household and tied up to the man. And it was said that we were dependent on the man. Is it that we were dependent on the men, or the men depended on us, or the men depended on women? Anyway, I want to go into the next question. What was the question again? The kapwa.
Yes, ma'am. The next question: how do Filipino values such as kapwa and bayanihan offer a decolonial framework for understanding global care ethics?
The Filipino woman is considered a global, a very a global force, because of the touch of our capacity to the nimble hands of our women have that kind of um, care, warm care for the patients, and warm handling of things like children in the out in the not in the Altenheim, or for the senior, that's a senior care facility. And then we also have our Filipina who are doing care work for the old people. And oftentimes in the survey, a lot of these patients look for the Filipino nurse. A lot of these old people always search for that small girl with, nimble hands, that warm person with a smile, because the regular woman here doesn't smile. They are like men, and they're also bully at certain times. They bully, but the Filipina is soft spoken and not harsh. So patients love our Filipino nurses with their small hands, but with their agile body. And I think that is because we proceed we in the manner we speak of our culture, the kindness, the bayanihan, the helpfulness. I would say we can capture all these two concepts in the word helpfulness. So when we speak of care work, who is more caring? For the old German woman, they always look for that Filipina, because she is tender, and she is uh, soft, and she is harsh. But the problem is that our bodies are too small. When it comes to the machine, I also observe one of our nurses almost breaking her arm because the
Mm-hmm.
machine is very heavy. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. But even if you just earn 10 euros per hour here, that's 600 pesos. Nobody will give you 600 pesos per hour in the Philippines. That's very small amount here, 10 euros. Anyway, and you work for 6 hours as Krankenfliegenhelfer, 30 minutes pause. Okay, 6 hours and 30 minutes all in all. You are paid to work only 6 hours and 30 minutes. If you finish the Anarkenong, you will get that certificate called the Lageso. And then that's the time you enter into the full-time labor market at 22 euros and 90 22 and 90 euros per hour. So you climb to TV5. That's the basic step in the formal contract Arbeitsmarkt. But if you cannot pass the Anerkennung, you go home. Or you end up as Wohnung cleaner. Some of them do. They end up as Wohnung cleaner. They don't want to go home. So they just go cleaning buildings. And some of our Filipino compatriots, they just make do with that because their families are peasants or their families are very far from the center, and they have brothers and sisters still going to school, and they have to send money home. Yeah, that's the situation. And the other thing is that our government needs the OFW remittance so that they can steal. Bad thing is that our remittances are our taxes are being used by the bad politicians. Anyway,
I definitely agree with you on that, Doctor. So there are other questions. So we have, okay, so I have questions, actually two questions for you, ma'am. The first one would be, what would a decolonial future look like for the global care chain, especially for the Philippines as a major labor sending country?
um, I would still encourage, if I am a bureaucrat in the Philippines, I would look for jobs in the Philippines, in the country, that would compete with the labor standards abroad. The reason why people go abroad is that there are no job placements available locally. Okay. So, what they are doing is sending laborers abroad. And we understand that labor is capital, just like land is capital. And we're doing two bad things in the country. We let the foreign companies occupy our land, and then we send our laborers to work abroad. That's entirely capital flight instead of developing our industries. So we always campaign for national industrialization. We always campaign to support our agriculture so that the primary sector will have materials engineering to pour into our industries, and we can create our industries, and our industries will then have a lot of workers, our local workers, to work with us. Here, they're looking for mechatronics, ET, IT professional. They say ET because it's the way they pronounce it. IT professionals, they're looking for driver mechanics and all these things that you do for the big trucks and the big automotive industries. We don't have an automotive industry. So that's the problem with our country. If we had developed our mining industries, we're selling our mine, we're actually allowing other mining companies to extract our mines, and they make use of our resources. So our people are not working in our country, they are working abroad. The basic thing for a country like us is to develop our own industries so that we can keep our labor force, we can keep capital intact in our country, and we can advance the incomes, we can advance the salary scale. If we cannot advance the salary scale, people will really fly away and look for other sources. And then, if at least we cannot increase salaries, we should not hammer on inflationary rates. When food is very expensive, oh, it's really bad because you don't have the incomes that will equal your expenses. So that's entirely a problematic thing, so that's why the government is banking on the labor force. They're selling labor force abroad so that they can collect dollars, euros, sterling, or pounds back home. And when they rake in more of this foreign currencies, it will boost the local currency. But as of the moment, it's a sad reality that the future becomes bleak when a sustained portion of the population is going out working abroad just to earn a living, and then national industrialization is dampened. National industrialization is tailing behind export processing zones, like what happened in Mactan Island. You have about 80,000 um, you know endo is job contract job outs contract. They are not permanent. They don't have a labor union in the export processing zone. It's really a kind of exploitation of labor that we are doing for and in behalf of foreign industries. I also observe the job messe. The job messe here is job fair. Well, the job fair in Germany are purely German industries. In the Philippines, you have job fairs for Japanese industries, Chinese industries in the export processing zone. So, who will benefit from our labor? It's not our country, because they will expatriate. You work for them, they profit from you, and their country benefits. It's not our industries, because we have not developed our own industries. Well, in Mactan, you have the Timex, you have the Rikyu, you have these all types of, you have Pentax, even the camera parts. They're looking for workers who will allow them to exploit them only at 400, not even 500 peso minimum wage. So that's a problem. And that 500 peso is for the whole day, 8 hours. Here, you have 600 per hour. Of course, you eat euros, you don't eat pesos. But 4 hours work is minimum work for Kurzarbeit. That's 40 euros per day. 40 times 30, that's big enough for 1 month. You can still send to your family. You can still rent your apartment, and you can have kino. Kino is theater. You can watch the theater. You can go to the Olympia Stadion football or the football game. So you can still enjoy, but still you are proletariat and you are a migrant. That's the only thing. But for the Philippines, we continue to be exporter of laborers, and our Filipinos are hardworking people who know the value of 4 hours, 6 hours work. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I totally agree with everything you've said. Now, my next question would be, are government-led reintegration programs for returning Filipina care workers informed by decolonial perspectives, or do they reinforce neoliberal narratives?
I am not sure what the OWA is doing. If there are also a number of reintegrees, but we have a lot of Filipinos who would rather settle abroad. There are also very old Filipinos who would like to come back home and invest. And the banks are more active in that, because they always connect to those who have money to invest, who have dollars to invest. But as to the government, I do not know of a program for individuals or individuals who are talking about reintegration program, like the Philippine embassy. The embassy always look into the workers here, but the problem with the embassies is that they just collect fees from our OFWs, and then they impose this healthcare when in fact the OFW is already insured and have health insurance in the workstation. So it is redundant to collect money for field health. It is redundant to collect money for SSS. But what they are doing, that's the only thing that we are sure of. Reintegration is catching them back so that their money will be invested into uh, the programs of government. As to social integration schemes, or even the grievance procedure of these workers who come back home, I'm not sure of that. There are a lot of workers who were taken to jail, but in fact, there are many who were jailed, not just in the case of Flor Contemplacion. There are similar cases, or Mary Jane Veloso, or Sara Balabagan case. There are many, many who are languishing in jail, but I don't know if government is taking care of that. So how much more if they are just free to come back home? If they're free to come back home, government will only catch up with them for the interest of further investments, because the thinking, the this is the mentality of the Filipinos. If you have an OFW, you think that, oh, she is very rich, so you ask for all the pasalubong. That is our association with the OFW. We never thought that they are suffering abroad, that they are in distress abroad. And then much more if we speak of decoloniality. So you decolonize the worker from abroad. You are not thinking about the grievance of the worker after she is being oppressed, far from home. She is even oppressed because she is alone and distanced from her family. And then we speak of, oh, you decolonize because you are already somebody from the outside. That's also another, that's a wrong question actually, but I would tell you there's no such thing as even a grievance procedure. Okay? And that should be the first thing that you should ask. What should be the grievance procedure to ameliorate the situation of OFWs who are in distress in the other parts of the world, who long for family, who long for the affection of their children, of their husband, of their parents. And when they come home, oh, people are already waiting there because they want to collect something, their gifts, their pasalubong. They could not even say, oh, how are you? Do you feel well? Are you good?
How are
Thank you
you?
so much.
How are you, Therese? Are you able to get
I
everything
was
that
very
Dr.
enlightened.
Sanchez? That's
Yes.
good. I think Therese is very much interested with what you have, because she also asked her questions here. So there are two. And I don't know if you still want to have a follow-up comment or question, Therese, on what you have exchanged about.
I have none, sir. So I was very
Okay.
enlightened by Dr. Sanchez. So thank you for
Of
answering my
course.
questions, ma'am. And
And we
also,
also have
yeah.
some questions here. Can you read from there, Dr. Sanchez, the comments? No, right?
No, I
But if you
cannot
look,
see the
but if
privilege.
you will, but if you look at the YouTube, maybe I could give you the uh, YouTube link.
Should I
Or
read the questions and comments, sir?
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So we
Please.
have another question from, I cannot read the name, Rex. Okay, so what are your thoughts on the Eastern Orthodox theanthropic viewpoint on humanity compared to the Western humanist view on humanity?
Hmm. I'm not focused on that area, but the Eastern humanist view is more in the spiritual, more on the
Yeah,
spiritual.
spiritual.
Western is more on the material. So we
Mm-hmm.
always go back to the orientation of things from the cosmic world or from the cosmic environment. That's how we always view things. Um, that's how we proceed rather than the material um,
Mm.
basis of operating things. I
All
don't know
right.
if
I
Okay,
agree with
thank
you,
you.
ma'am. We also have a comment here from Mr. Leo Ian Hovero. Actually, it's very interesting. Hello, Professor. For a long time, no shift has occurred between the global divide. So, Alexander Dudgeon proposed ethnopluralism, a multipolar paradigm which offers an alternative to globalization. Even so, ethnopluralism remains an academic literature. Can this be also true about decoloniality? Must Southeast Asian remain the modern servants of their modern serfs?
I go down to specific and concrete terms when you speak of pluralism, feel felt in Dugin's perspective that is still floating. Huh? I don't. I don't see that as an alternative to globalization because globalization is economic and it is exploited by, again, the corporation. Globalization was triggered by the world's military industrial complex, the big banks, the big oil, the big pharma, the big biotech. Now, if you speak of Dugin's ethno-pluralism and multipolar paradigm, um, what makes that as an alternative is that it has nothing to do with our economic globalization, which is basically um, in imperialist terms. Okay, so but Dukin has not given the uh, premises of his of his field fault. Now, field fault is simply cultural, is simply theoretical, but globalization has, um, economic implications. If we debunk the economic implications of globalization, maybe that is correct alternative because you cannot make an alternative which is just not hitting, not really attacking head on, but something that will really overhaul globalization is what we are looking for. Yeah, it remains an academic literature.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sanchez, once again for answering all the questions and the comments that we have from our participants. And we also want to thank the participants for the meaningful exchange. Again, thank you, Dr. Sanchez, for generously sharing your expertise with us. Right, Sir Jofer?
Yes, thank you very much. No, although we still have a few comments here, we also would like to recognize them. No, like from Rex. No, um, was this read a while ago? Not yet, right? So
Yes,
I would
sir.
like. Ah, yes, okay. And then yeah, so okay. So I think most of the questions. Although I don't know, I don't see any other follow-up questions or comments now from those who asked their questions. But well, another new comment from Leo. No, he wants to give this to Dr. Sanchez, thanking her for delivering the inquiry, So thank you as well, Sir Leo, for being with us, during the Q&A. So
Thank you.
can we still see more questions? I think we don't see any more questions. Maybe you could say your some more remarks, given the exchange that we have with the audience, Dr. Sanchez.
Again, what is that? V.
Maybe you would like to give more remarks, given that we had our exchange with some of the audience about their questions and
Oh,
their
I thank
comments
you
as
for
well.
the yeah, I thank you for the inquiry and the interest to the topic, and I hope I can engage more. But yeah, I'm bound to have another discussion at 10. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you so much
so we
for
Thank you
okay.
so much, Dr. Sanchez. So, to award the certificate of recognition to Dr. Sanchez, we may call on Mr. Antonio Plata. Once again, a round of virtual of applause, please, and Mr. Antonio Plata.
Okay, let's mhm.
Hmm.
So hello once again. It is my honor to read the citation. This certificate is given to Dr. Phoebe Zoe Sanchez for being the resource speaker during the second International Philosophy Conference on Buddhism and Decolonialism at Bukidnon State University, given this 15th day of October in the year of our Lord 2025 at Bukidnon State University, Malaybalay City, Bukidnon, Philippines. Signed, Dr. Joy M. Mirasol, University President. Thank you very much, Dr. Phoebe So Sanchez.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Professor Plete.
Okay, so that's it. That was it. Wait, I have to remove the
Thank you,
the
thank you.
name. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanchez, for being with us. Actually, I invited Dr. Sanchez months ago, and you're here, and we really thank you in behalf of the Department of Philosophy here at Bukidnon State University. Dr. Sanchez, again, we would like to express our deep gratitude for uh, uh, giving us the opportunity to hear from you, uh, to hear from someone who's knowledgeable in our field, no? And of course, this is a philosophy conference, but we also considered your work as in a way giving us insights for the growth of philosophy or philosophical discourse, no? Especially that it's about decolonialism. It's a topic that we also discuss in some of our philosophy subjects here. Then we also hope that the audience have learned a lot, no, from Dr. Sanchez, whom I met at UP Diliman before, and now is already in Germany as a guest professor at the DeZIM Institute. No, so I'm actually out of words, Dr. Sanchez, and I hope you also enjoyed being with us, and thank you very much. So in the vernacular, for Filipino vernacular, maraming salamat at mabuhay po kayo, Dr. Sanchez.
Thank you very much, Professor Jofer Maninang. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate and I'm honored that I am invited to your conference. I hope that I contributed something to the development of the philosophy department. And to Therese, thank you so much for your engagement and the questions and your facilitation. I appreciate
Okay.
it so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Dr.
Goodbye.
Sanchez.
Goodbye. So at this point, we're about to end our afternoon session, or the BukSU International Philosophy Conference. No, so but
But first, yeah,
before we go,
before we end, let's take a short intermission by watching another BukSu audiovisual presentation highlighting the university's commitment to academic excellence and philosophical inquiry. Okay, so as we come to the end of our conference, we would like to thank everyone, our speakers, our dear participants, organizers, and partners for making this event possible and truly meaningful. Now, for his closing remarks, we may call on Mr. Jofer Maninang for his closing remarks. Sir Jofer.
okay. Thank you very much, Therese. No, and again, I'm Jofer Manina. No, I'm from the BukSu Philosophy Department, and I headed this initiative about the International Philosophy Conference. It's actually our second. We started this last year, and we were also online. And hopefully soon, we could have our on-site International Philosophy Conference here in our university, and that would be next year. No, we hope we could do that. No, and all I can say is that. Thank you very much, to my fellow, uh, MC, Therese Baldosa, for being with me all throughout since this morning. I also would like to thank my colleagues here in the department, our staff. No, I cannot mention them all because there are so many. We work about this, and we also had this approved, by our university administrators, especially our university president, Dr. Joy Mirasol. And really would like to thank her also with the other units in the university. Thank you very much. No, and then of course our speakers. No, thank you very much. We had our first speaker in the morning session, Dr. Chandima Gangodawila, who was speaking straight from Ateneo de Manila University, but he was actually he was from Thailand. And of course, for our afternoon session, we also would like to thank again Dr. Phoebe Zoe Sanchez, no, who was speaking straight from Berlin, Germany. So we are very thankful for the speakers. They are experts in their field, in the topics that they talked about and shared about, no, which related to philosophy, or it's about philosophy, no, but concentrating on specific topics, no. So we really are very thankful. So in behalf of the department, in behalf of the university, in behalf of uh, philosophy here in our region, no, Bukidnon, no, Northern Mindanao, no. Thank you very much to our speakers. And of course, thank you very much to our audience. Thank you very much to our pre-registrants who represent different institutions around the country, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. No, we've mentioned them, no, or their institutions this morning and this afternoon before we started. We hope that you could also join us again in our next conference, which we plan to do on site in our university. No, and before I go, I also would like to uh, remind you that we will be distributing the link right now. I will be distributing the link right now for the evaluation form so that we would know how we're going to improve uh, our uh, our uh, our next conference, no. So we will be giving the certificates as long as you have filled out our evaluation form, no, and then we will send right away your certificates of participation in your email. So we'll it's actually a signed copy of our administrators here. So with that, I would like to give the floor again to Therese. So thank you very much, uh, at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Jofer. Thank you again to the participants, to everyone who participated. Again, this is Therese Baldosa, your MC or Master of Ceremony for the second International Philosophy Conference. Good day, and thank you so much, everyone. Bye.